All right, folks, how we doing? Welcome to the Zydeco Coaches Show, brought to you by Queens Casino here inside the 1717 restaurant. Andy Poetzinger here alongside number 16, Elijah Wilson. Thanks for being here, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. A couple of things before we get started. First of all, obviously, thank you all for coming here, being here in person. Thank you, everybody watching on YouTube. Couple shout outs. Number one, a nice big round of applause for the brand new Fontenot's out in the corner. Hope and Shane just got married. Congratulations. Number two, it was someone's birthday last week.
Thought I was gonna
Somebody's
sneak by.
birthday. So should we all sing or no?
No.
Very good. Well, we'll get to the questions. So today, we're going to interview Elijah for a little bit, and then we'll have Everett on to talk about the Thanksgiving week gauntlet that we had last week, and what we've got coming up this week against Carolina. So let's get to it. First and foremost, Elijah, Michigan man, born in Muskegon, correct?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. What was your gateway to hockey? Were you a Red Wings guy? Were you a UMich guy? Michigan State, Spartan? Where are we at?
I was definitely a Michigan fan growing up.
Closer.
There was no green in the house, I'll tell you that.
No.
But what got me interested in hockey was my grandpa and grandma. They were huge hockey fans when they raised me. They had me in a pair of skates before I was 3 years old, which was pretty cool.
Okay.
But actually, I just grew up playing co-ed hockey. So, I mean, my grandma was raised, she owned a business, so she was busy 24/7. So, that's actually how I got into it. She just kind of threw me at the rink. She would go to work, and then I would just have a time.
So it was a co-ed hockey, some house league hockey and stuff like that. When were you on your first organized team?
I was actually JV hockey.
So it was high school. Okay.
Yeah,
I was going to ask about that.
Wasn't until high school, so
Okay.
it was I had a lot of learning to do.
Yeah. Any idols growing up or anything like that?
It was probably one would be Justin Applicator. He went to my high school, and so when you see number 87 all over your high school, it kind of puts it in perspective for you that the goal is attainable, or you know what I mean. Hard work pays off.
Yeah. What I know you were kind of a multi-sport athlete. What sports did you play growing up?
So growing up, I played basketball, indoor soccer, football, baseball, kind of anything to any season that I could play to keep busy. So
in high school, the three that stuck though were football, baseball, hockey.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Okay. Was it hard to kind of choose your sport when you wanted to continue following sports after high school?
Not necessarily. So after I graduated, I went and played 1 year of juniors in the EHL, and then kind of my grandma, she passed away, and so then I kind of just went to work. It was started traveling and stuff like that. And my buddy Truxton, he actually got me back into hockey.
Okay.
He was like, come play in the mill, MIHL, just have some fun. I had no health insurance at the time, so I was like, there's no way I'm doing that. And so then he actually got me back into it after 6 years of not playing.
That is crazy.
That's what pulled me back into hockey.
That's crazy. All right. Well, let's take a couple steps back. Sticking with you in high school, I believe you have quite the football story. Tell us about just helping your team to victory as a third-string quarterback in the playoffs. I think it got you to the championship game, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, I found out I was third string that day too. I thought I was second string, but funny story is Tyree Jackson, who actually played a little bit in the NFL, which was pretty cool. He unfortunately tore his ACL in the semifinal game. Second string went in, Tyler Trovinger. Unfortunately, he got a concussion. And then I got my chance, and it was surreal. Shout out to Kobe Burse. I think it was a 67-yard touchdown I threw to him.
Goodness.
And then took us to the championship game. And Tyree, which he rightfully deserved, he ended up playing quarterback that game with a torn ACL.
Oh my God.
All the props to him.
Yeah.
And that was one of the coolest high school moments for sure.
And you threw the ball all 67, right? That
Yeah,
was,
oh yeah,
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 right
yeah,
on the
no,
dot. 100%. Good.
maybe 15
Yeah.
yards, but yeah, no.
Uh, so high school hockey out in Michigan, it's a little bit hit and miss. Some of it's really, really great, and some of it's not so much. What was your experience out in Michigan playing high school hockey?
Our high school, it was good when I was young, but as I got to high school, AAA really took off,
Yeah,
and a lot of kids branched out, and the Muskegon Lumberjacks, USHL was
yeah,
right there, so you had a lot of kids getting offered to go to camps there, and it wasn't as competitive as what I hoped it would be.
yeah.
It was more so like a have fun, which I wish I would have tried the AAA or
Hmm.
something like that. It just wasn't in my route at the time.
Yeah. Well, and you said you had ended up getting an offer to go play juniors anyway, so clearly it worked out in the end. Did you just have the one offer, or do you have a couple different options that you could be looking at?
It was just the one
Okay.
offer, and I'm super thankful. It was uh, Justin Grievous through my hometown set that up for me. Incredibly thankful for that.
Hmm.
It was a huge learning curve for me to learn how to live on my own, away from family my whole life,
Yeah.
how to operate, possibly being cut every day, and there was a lot of learning lessons for me
Yeah.
that went into that, which I'm thankful
Absolutely.
for.
So it was the Philadelphia Revolution out in the EHL. What's your fondest memory of going out and playing in Philly, which is a pretty big hockey town itself?
Yeah, so. It's not even anything to do with hockey. I had a really good friend there, Connor Vance. He unfortunately passed away last year, but
Mm,
it was mainly stuff away from the rink where you meet a couple local guys like Connor Vance, and you meet Vince, and you meet another guy who they called Q-Tip Tom, who was just a goofball, you know what I mean? And it's the memories you make away from hockey and
yeah,
around the town like that really sticks with you.
yeah, absolutely. Um, you were saying between 2016 2021, you went to work and all that good stuff, kind of got pulled back in. Did you end up playing like any men's league hockey or anything in between, or were you just off completely?
I played like a couple, maybe just drop-ins back home,
Yeah,
but a lot of it was I lived in Colorado for a couple years, so I was just working at like a ski resort. There wasn't
yeah,
really any hockey there. I lived in Arizona at Lake Powell, and so I mean there was no hockey there either. So I just kind of when I would go home, I would see who's playing, maybe go play a little bit,
yeah,
feel like throwing up after, be
yeah,
out of shape, but no, it was really more so I was just so focused on trying to get my life going or
yeah.
get it
Get it
going, you
started.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, you mentioned you came back, played hockey in the MIHL with the Muskegon Voyagers. Kind of a cool full circle moment for you to be able to come back and play in your hometown.
Yeah, that was a blessing. And I give all the credit, like I said, to my buddy Truxton. I was just kind of lifting weights at the time, and he pulled me back into the hockey rink, and the MIHL is exactly what it's supposed to be for people that are home and just have that itch of wanting to play more competitive
Hmm.
hockey. You can do it. And then for guys, say like myself, who wanted the opportunity to be able to move to the next level,
Hmm.
the opportunity's there. It's as serious as you want to take it. And
Yeah.
so I'm very thankful for the MIHL being there.
Well, you had a really rough year with 30 points in 12 games, so it took you a while to get back on your feet. But having such a great season, eventually it did lead you to Watertown that next season. Was it a contract offered right away? Was it kind of a back and forth, or did you have to go to like different camps and stuff along the way?
So the full story on that, which I'm super thankful. It's all about who you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it was actually Jeff Carr and Brent Clark. Jeff Carr was actually the coach of Knoxville at the time,
Hmm.
and Brent Clark was the coach of Watertown. And someone from my hometown knew Jeff Carr, reached out to him. They got me to a camp right away, and it was weird. The same day I signed the FPHL camp, there was a coaching change where Jeff Carr went to the East Coast, and then Brent Clark went to the
Hmm.
SPHL. And so I was very fortunate. It's all about timing, you know. I was very fortunate to be there and Brent Clark to take me with him to the SPHL. And that's kind of how I got my shot there, was
Yeah.
just right place, right time, you know.
That's awesome. Stars kind of aligned for you.
Hmm.
You impressed pretty well out in Watertown that first year. 17 goals, 23 assists, 40 points in 42 games. So you kind of picked up where you left off out in Muskegon. What was your first season in the Fed like?
Chaotic.
Yeah.
Um, especially coming to the Fed and not playing hockey in 6 years, you have this thought in your head of pro hockey, everything's like the NHL. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're gonna be treated amazing, everything, and which you're still treated very well, but you got to learn to adapt and overcome some of the obstacles of like driving a bus for 16 hours or
Hmm.
not anything small that can have a hiccup in your game. And we had some funny moments in our ownership my rookie year. But I'm thankful to go through all that because now in my career, anything that I go through, you
Hmm.
kind of just laugh at.
Yeah.
You're like, okay,
Shrug it off.
I've been through worse, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it was right place, right time again, you
Yeah.
know.
And you got a shot too at the SPHL. You went up to the Knoxville Ice Bears for about a 5 game stint or so. What was that experience like?
It was a lot of fun. It was a blessing. I was very, very timid. I was still trying to find my game at the time. I didn't
Hmm.
know my identity as a player or just even as a professional hockey player. So that was another big learning curve for me. You've got Division 1 athletes all around
Yeah.
you. You've got people who know how to act like a pro,
Yeah.
and so it was awesome. It was a blessing to
Yeah.
be there.
But in a span of a year, you went from the MIHL up to the SPHL, which is quite a jump. And granted, it was just a 5 game stint still. But what were some of the major differences that you did end up seeing in that SPHL game compared to what you had seen in the past year or so?
Structure, a lot of structure, and any bit of weakness in your game is kind of gonna get exposed at that point.
Hmm.
Excuse me, whether it's your balance, whether it's your shot, defensive play, IQ, forecheck, back check, whatever it is, you kind of get exposed and you learn to double down and kind of work on what you got to work on, and
Yeah,
that's what that was for me.
fire on all cylinders kind of thing.
Exactly.
You stayed in the state of New York the next year, but you ended up going south to Elmira instead. Um, your second season, in the Fed. How would you describe that?
Second season was pretty tough for me. 6 games in the season, I ended up tearing my labrum and separating
Mm.
my AC joint in my shoulder. And I was pretty stubborn. I was so eager rather than trying to heal. I wanted to move up. I mean, I was taking Toradol shots every game just to
Yeah,
not feel it, and it was more so playing the season timid, trying to make it through. So kind of,
trying not to get hurt.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it's hard to be aggressive or it's hard to produce when you're just trying not to get hurt.
yeah, absolutely. That year you did also have a quick cup of coffee in the ECHL. Was that the beginning of the year, end of the year? When did that kind of come in?
It was the beginning of the year.
Okay,
Yep, it was the
gotcha.
start.
How did that come about?
It was first of all, what a blessing.
Yeah.
I actually just arrived to Elmira and Brent Clark reached out to me and he just thankfully just said keep your phone on. I believe I might have got you a camp, and sure as can be, I got a call not even an hour later. I was like, hey, it's James Henry from the Reading Royals, and
Yeah.
man, it was a blessing.
Yeah. it it kind of speaks to, I think, just your obviously your natural hockey skill, but your hockey IQ as well, that you've been able to kind of hit the levels that you have. Is there anything that you do away from, watching your own game or whatever it is to kind of sharpen your mental skills and kind of keep up with what's going on in the hockey world type of thing?
The biggest thing for me away from the rink, um, obviously training and stuff like that, but is the ability to separate yourself from being a hockey player and being a person. Because oftentimes you'll have a bad game and that'll transform into like your life, and you think you're a bad person because you had a bad game. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's a lot of mental stuff like that to learn how to overcome outside of the game.
Yeah. Try to put the stuff away and
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. This summer, you were acquired in a trade that sent 4 Zydeco players out to Hudson Valley and brought you and another man out to Baton Rouge. Um, what's your initial reaction on figuring out you're coming south?
No offense to the Hudson Valley guys. I love all my guys out there, but I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
When you get a young, hungry coach like Everett, and you got a squad like we had or have, and you can see all the recruiting and all the work going into it. I was extremely excited. I've
Hmm.
had a couple coaches now. Watertown, Justin Coachman was different. I loved Coachman. However, there were some other coaches who didn't have that tenacity or that hunger for the game that Everett has, and it makes you want to run through a wall.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely. Um, you're somebody who's been around this league for a little bit now, and you're considered to be a veteran. What are some of the things that you are seeing from this group that has made them so successful?
A big thing, I would say a lot of it is our leadership group, our older guys, like whether that be MJ going to Elias, there's a lot of I've been on teams where older guys kind of slack and the younger guys lead after that, you know.
Hmm.
These younger guys, like they want to be led. You just got to lead them right.
Hmm.
And we have the type of leadership group who are just savages. I mean, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's practice, whether it's conditioning, whether it's being on time, being a professional. We've got a lot of older guys in the locker room that show the younger guys how to do it, and
Yeah,
that's the recipe.
everybody's on the same page, pulling the rope the same way.
100%.
Yeah,
You're only as strong as your weakest link. Everyone pulls the same rope,
yeah.
and it's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, it certainly helps having a guy like you kind of lead the way from an offensive standpoint. 13 goals, 10 assists, 23 points in 17 games. First thing I want to talk to you about in regards to your game is just your line as a whole. The three of you guys are just so much fun to watch. What is it about your line that just clicks with Haggerty and Sabat?
Um, I would say the selflessness.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, playing with those guys is so easy, as in there's no pressure, no peer pressure. I mean, I could give Shane the worst pass in the world. I mean, the worst pass in the world. It's obviously my fault. And he'd be the first guy to say, "Hey, Willie, my fault. I probably should have been here. This is what I
Yeah.
should have did to make this work." And I mean, we all take responsibility. There's no one ever pointing fingers, and it's not about points. I mean,
Yeah.
we have so much fun
Yeah.
playing. That's it. We just have fun.
Well, so the fans and I have been trying to figure out a nickname for your group, and you'll have to take it back to the other two guys. But I want to throw a couple of them out there. We've got the teens, and then we've got the money line. This one has been the favorite so far. The law offices of Haggerty, Sabat, and Wilson.
I like that.
I like that one too. And we've also got the power line. So, what do you have a ranking personally on which one you like the most, or
So
where are we at?
we actually discussed this over lunch today.
Did you really?
Yeah, we sat together and the one that we came up with that we thought was the top one in the comments was the firm.
The firm. Yep. Okay.
The firm was our favorite,
Hmm.
but we are open to suggestions. We are open to
Send them in.
suggestions.
Send them in. We'll pick one for you by Friday.
That's
Um,
funny.
so away from the rink, you're also a guy who's obviously got a real big heart, right? We saw after the game against Monroe this past Saturday, there's an unfortunate incident where a young little boy got hit in the face. Puck had hit your stick and just gone out of play. You went over there after the game. You had signed the stick and sent it over to the kid and kind of made his day. Um, it's that kind of kindness that I think really makes a difference in the world. Is that something that you've kind of learned over time, or has that been instilled in you right from the start?
It's well, like that little kid, back where I'm from, the Fury in the UHL or
Yeah,
the IHL was
yeah.
huge. And so you kind of see yourself in the kid. You remember when you were a small 6-year-old slamming on the glass asking for a hockey puck, or you were so thankful to get a
Hmm.
stick. And it's been such a blessing to have the platform to be able to put a smile on a kid's face like that,
Yeah,
or just how impactful it is for them.
yeah.
And so honestly, that's what it's all about. As cliche as that sounds, but
Hmm.
it's that's what it's about.
That's awesome stuff. We did have a question in the YouTube chat coming from Jackson. How many times have you fought in your career?
Do we have a last name on that one?
We don't have a last name, unfortunately. It's Jackson one
Okay, all right. I have only been in 4 fights. Last year,
on the ice, not like bars or
yeah,
anything.
no,
Yeah.
no, just
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. No, just making
In that
sure.
case, probably like 70. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I've only been in 4 fights. My first one was against Riley Robertson, who plays for Athens. Funny story about that. When I played in Knoxville, Justin McDonald, I was a rookie. I was just asking for advice, and I was like, did you fight a lot your rookie year? And he's like, oh yeah, yeah. But I always fought people bigger than me. So if I lost, like no big deal. But
Yeah.
if I won, like there you go. And so I'll never forget next game, the guy's like 6'7", and I was like, here we go. Like pick the biggest guy we can find, whatever J-Max said.
Did you win?
So it was a draw. I didn't get hit and I didn't get any on him.
There you
So
go.
yeah, it was like riding the bull for 9
There
seconds.
you go.
Just hang on.
Hang on for dear life.
Exactly.
Oh, good stuff. Well, we definitely we want your hands used for scoring instead of fighting this year. That's for sure. We leave for Carolina for a 2-game set this weekend. Pretty big weekend against a team who they've taken down some big boys in this league. Athens and Columbus, they kind of blew them out of the water a couple of times. What are some things that you're seeing from the Thunderbirds?
They've got a firepower, they can score, but they're also very fundamental defensively. They've got one guy that specifically, I mean Gus Ford, everybody knows the name. He's played for how long,
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have lightning speed, but however, he is very IQ inclined to the game, and so that's one guy we'll have to watch for. But as long as we play our game, I don't know if you noticed, whenever we're down or our backs are against the wall, we kind of light a fire and we're a completely different team.
Mm-hmm.
Coming out against Monroe, we had a big talk where, we need to play with that fire right away. And next thing you know, we score
Mm-hmm.
first 2 minutes of the game. So as long as we play our game, come out aggressive, like we're down two rather than wait until the end of the game,
Yeah.
we'll be just fine. We would be just fine.
Awesome. All right, that's Elijah Wilson, everybody. How about it?
Thank you,
How
guys.
about it? Thanks, Elijah. I appreciate you being on.
Thank
All right,
you.
we're gonna have Everett Thompson come on here in just a minute, but for right now, we're gonna send you to a commercial break. You are watching the Zydeco Coaches Show, brought to you by Queens Casino.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Does he think he's better than us? We'll find out. Think you're better than us with that fancy stick work, huh? Buddy, watch this. Yeah, you got good hands. But watch this. Let's get out of here, MJ.
Hey, I'm Dr. Donald. Scott, come on in, Scott. Thanks.
Scott, you ready? All right, you can have a seat right here.
All right, Scott. We're going to get you all fixed up today, okay?
A few moments later.
All right, Scott. Good as new.
Thank you, Dr. Donald.
You're welcome. Welcome to Advanced Dental Care, official dentist of the Zydeco hockey team. Whether you're a hockey player or not, we can give you the perfect smile.
Dawn Seafood, our weekend brunch isn't just a meal. It's the moment you've been waiting for all week. Begin your legendary weekend with brunch favorites like our shrimp and grits, crab cake benedict, and of course, bottomless mimosas. Let's be honest, the party doesn't start until Dawn Seafood hits the table. From our team at Dawn Seafood, we want to thank you for the past 90 years and cheers to many more together.
Morton throwing it towards the goal, looking for a redirect, didn't get it. Conway for Haggerty, back door, they score! Elijah Wilson, wide open at the side, a one-time shot. We're tied at 5. Welcome back to the Queens Casino 1717 restaurant. You're watching the Zydeco Coaches Show. Andy Poetzinger here alongside our coach, Everett Thompson. ET, how are you?
Good. How we doing?
Doing good. Boys, a long week last week. Long week for the guys. Ended up coming away with 3 wins out of 4 games. 2 of them in come from behind fashion. So let's kind of just do a quick little recap here at the very beginning against Monroe. Scoreless after 1. Go down 2-1 going into the third, 3-1 deficit staring at you in the face, and really not many offensive chances. What was the spark that got things going?
I'm not sure if it was really a spark per se. I think we got some momentum, like you said. We didn't have a ton of chances per se. We're one of those teams that, if you let us stick around, we'll find a way to come back. So, just our resilience really showed through there at the end, and we're really getting too used to these shootouts. So.
Yeah. Well, Dmitry Kuznetsov started the party, made it 3-2 with his goal, and then a minute and a half later, it was kind of the hockey god smiling down at us. A bit of a weird fluky goal, and it was interesting because you and I had, I think, talked earlier that day about how we really weren't getting that many bounces this year, and it was kind of time for things to go the other way, and what a time for it to change.
Yeah, you're gonna get bounces, and that's one of the things where, like, if we just play our game, sometimes it's not exactly always the most exciting, especially when you're on the road, like Tuesday night. It's one of those weird games to kind of get up for. So, the start wasn't exactly something that I don't think was unexpected.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where we just kind of had to be a hamster on the wheel, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And then, like you said, we found some puck luck there. And, once we get in overtime and shootouts, like I said a second ago, we're getting used to it. So.
How much of an effect does it actually take on the players having those weekday games, the things that they're not necessarily used to? They go through a bit of a routine throughout the week. Does it kind of take them off their game a little bit, or are there ways to kind of combat it?
Every individual person's different. I think for some guys, it's just another day. It's whatever. I think for some guys, it messes with them a little bit more. So I think it's really on the individual when it comes to how it actually affects them and how they play. So.
Yeah. Kuzi got a couple shootout goals this past week. Obviously, in Monroe, he won it. What makes him so effective in the shootout?
He's deceptive. He's got a hard shot to read. You don't know really where he's putting it. He's one of those natural goal scorers.
Yeah. One note from that game, we did lose Narek Alexanian to a lower body injury yesterday. He was put on that 50-day IR. Any other updates on his condition at all, or is it just kind of wait and see?
No, just day to day. He'll be back after that time is up. It's just one of those, he got hit a little weird and feels a little funny.
Yeah. Ended up going out to Columbus the next day. Start of the game was very much in our favor. Boys pushed the pace right away. I talked with Elijah about the Sabat Haggerty Wilson line. What in your eyes is making them so effective?
They communicate. They play well off of each other. I think each one of them brings something different to their line. So I think, when you have those 3 different elements, one guy brings speed, one guy kind of controls it, and, the other guy, makes room for everyone else. I think when you add all 3 of those elements and they all 3 are very high skilled, and like I said, they communicate well, success is going to happen.
Teams traded goals going all the way up to the third. We ended up going down again on a couple of power play goals, which if there was one negative coming off of this week, the penalty kill kind of took a bit of a step back. What are some things that you're picking up on with that PK that needs to kind of improve a bit?
I mean, I don't think it's something that necessarily is bad. I think whenever you're in the over 80%, you're humming pretty high still. I think it just kind of came back to reality is all that really happened. I think we're fine. There's no real adjustments we need to make. I think there's a few things we'll go over, but I think adjustment-wise, I think we're fine. I think there's just a few little habits that we're get beat on, and that's going to happen sometimes. Especially, I think what the real kicker is, I think we just took a few more penalties than normal. So,
Yeah.
whenever you start to play with that number, that's when you start to see that number go down. So,
Yeah, no need to blow the whole thing up after a couple of
no.
setbacks. Yeah, boys refuse to go down with the fight. Elijah Wilson, his 100th game, would get his second of the night to tie it up. What were some of the things over the summer with Elijah that you saw that you wanted to kind of bring that kind of energy to this team?
I just know he works hard in the summer. He's one of those guys that, he got into the game, like he said, a little later, necessarily on like the
Hmm.
professional side of things, like systematic wise. So I think, adding a few elements of those things to his game and teaching him how to play through it is one of those things that, trying to help him. So when he gets to the next level, it'll be, just more routine for him, and it gets even easier as he's having success in it. So I think it's one of those things where, he's a hard worker. So you just got to add a little
Hmm.
structure and see what he can really do.
Yeah. Um, in Columbus, obviously overtime once again, not enough. Went 6 rounds in the shootout this time, ended up pulling out the win. What is the thought process on putting together your lineup in the shootout? Is it whoever's hot that night, or do you have kind of a set idea?
You kind of have an idea. You watch the guys in practice a little bit, but I think, it's one of those things where it is one of those feel by, at the moment, who's maybe had a few goals in that game, who's moving well, who's, having a game type of thing. It's just one of those moments things.
Only game that we did drop this past week was one on home ice against Columbus. Once the guys stayed resilient, even though they didn't have the stuff necessarily all night long. I think that goes back to a lot of the values that you've instilled in training camp. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those games where, we never found our wheels. We didn't play our best hockey. I think everyone individually kind of looked at themselves in the mirror and said, tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's one of those weeks where we had a lot of games. But especially when it comes to playing at home, you don't want to drop one at home in front of the fans. So, it was a tough one, obviously, but at the same time, there was never really a moment where we quit, which is
Yeah.
huge. Especially like, there was times where we easily could have, but we never did. So.
Uh, on Saturday night, obviously things would change quite a bit. A 4-goal first period or a 3-goal first period, up 4-0 after halfway through the second period. Elijah was saying that there was a bit of a conversation before the game about starting out with a bit of a fire. That certainly took place on Saturday.
Yeah, whenever you play a rivalry game, especially a team in your own state, you want to kind of make a statement. I don't think we've made a statement against them yet. I think that was maybe a little bit of a coming out party for us. First game in a couple games, we haven't been super tight score-wise either, which was nice. We kind of built that 3-0 lead, and they kind of dug through and they kept climbing back into the game, but at the same time, we kind of kept going back to that cushion, which was nice.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, things did get a little hairy there for a minute. Monroe pulled their goaltender, and a lot of times when coaches do that, it's more of a fire igniter than anything for the rest of your team, and it worked for Monroe. When you see that kind of thing starting to switch, is it try to fight fire with fire, or is it just try to survive in advance type of thing?
I think when it comes to that many games in a week, I think it's one of those take it in advance type of things more than fire with fire. I think it all really depends on who you're playing and on the what's going on. I think in some situations if you're playing one or two in a weekend, I think you can kind of get away with going right back at them. But in that situation, there'd been a lot of hockey played that week
Mhm.
already, and we had a good lead, so it's just one of those things where you got to survive it sometimes.
Yeah. Uh, Ended up winning that game 7-4. We win 3 out of 4 games, get 7 out of 12 points, and hold a 3-point lead currently over Columbus in the standings, and 6 points over Carolina, who we're going to end up seeing this weekend. Your overall thoughts on what happened last week? What are you thinking on the way that your team played and just kind of coming out of there?
Yeah, we had some big tests. I think Columbus, I don't think we see them the rest of the year, but I think Monroe's a team we're going to see a lot more throughout the
Yeah.
season. And going into this week, I think it's one of those things where a lot of teams didn't really, I won't say respect us, but they didn't see us as someone that had played teams that have played. And I think after this week, we kind of proved that we can kind of play with anyone still. And I think this going into this weekend is another good test for us. They're kind of in this division, I guess, at the moment, or this division or conference, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it. I'd say Carolina, especially given who they've recently been beating. I think they're kind of, we're number one in the standings wise, but I think they're kind of the team everyone's looking at on top right now. So, good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we're going to get to the Carolina Thunderbirds here right after the commercial break. You're watching the Zydeco Coaches Show, brought to you by Queens Casino.
The Men's Network started when I went to a computer club meeting in the 7th grade that Brett organized. At that point, I had never met anyone that was as good at computers as Brett was. And by the 8th grade, we figured out that this was something that we could do professionally.
We moved to Baton Rouge to go to LSU, and that's really where our business got planted.
Give Immense a call. Let us show you how IT should be done.
The trust that we offer to our clients is actually, it comes pretty easy for us because we've been doing this a long time, and 90% of the jobs that we get are referrals. That's what we depend on, and we strive to let the customer know that we're going to be here. We will always answer the phone.
For over 90 years, Don's Seafood has been a Louisiana staple. From the finest Gulf catch to the most authentic Cajun recipes, our commitment to quality and tradition is who we are. Enjoy favorites like our gumbo, jacked up shrimp, seafood salad, steak, and of course, our signature seafood platter. Don's is more than just food. We're a celebration of flavor and family. From our team at Don's Seafood, we want to thank you for the last 90 years and cheers to many more together.
Brody Thornton throwing it towards the goal, looking for a redirect, didn't get it. Conway for Haggerty, back door, they score! Elijah Wilson, wide open at the side, a one-time shot. We're tied at 5. Welcome back to the Queens Casino, watching the Zydeco Coaches Show. All right, let's get to the preview for this upcoming week. We head out to North Carolina, nice long bus trip, taking on the impressive Carolina Thunderbirds. This season, we've talked a lot about Columbus and Athens and being some of the top teams, but I do think that Carolina should probably also be in that boat as well. They've taken down Athens this year 6-2. Columbus a couple weeks ago, they swept them with a 6-0 win mixed in there as well. So clearly they're one of the top teams to kind of be looking out for in the league.
I think, yeah, it's one of those teams that if you haven't been paying attention, they've been to the finals the last 2 years, and before COVID, they were always in the finals. They've always been 1 or 2 every single year in the standing wise in whatever division they're in. Yeah, I think it's one of the top echelon teams to look at. I think, I gave praise to Columbus, but I think Carolina is kind of the team in this league. When you talk about the Federal Hockey League, you kind of think about Carolina Thunderbirds. You kind of think about the Danbury hat tricks. They're one of those teams that's been around a while now, and every year they're good.
Well, yeah, and you had mentioned it. They've been in the final for 2 years in a row. Got swept last year by Binghamton. So 2 years in the finals, not being able to take home that trophy. It's probably going to be a bit of an angry team playing this year. Even though they did win back in 2019. What are some things that you are seeing from this group? A lot of which are coming back from last year that makes them successful.
I mean, whenever you have consistency in the same group, I think it's one of those things where they've played together for a long time now. They've got a lot of high IQ hockey players. It's one of the hardest barns probably to play in. I suspect it'll be a pretty full arena both nights. It's loud. It's one of those places that's tough to play in, and they take full advantage of everything that goes their way. It's a little bit of a different ice surface. A lot of room behind the nets, a little bit wider, it seems. And like I said, a lot of fans. It's a fun place to play, but it's also one of those places. If you're on the road, it can be a long night sometimes.
Yeah. You said the rink is a little bit on the wider side.
Yep.
Okay, so it could be one of those things where, as an away team, sometimes in those situations in your own zone, you can kind of get lost a bit. So it's good that we are going to have a bit of a morning skate there just to kind of get used to the rink. Taking a look at the stats for Carolina, I don't know if I've ever seen this before this late into the season. Not a single person on their team has a negative plus minus. What kind of stock do you put in that?
I mean, it kind of says what they're good at defense. They don't no line takes a break. It used to be one of those things where they kind of had one big line, and this year I think they've kind of eliminated that per se. I think they've kind of a deep team, and I think that's why they're one of the top teams in the league.
And they do get some pretty consistent scoring going up and down their lineup. It seems to me, though, that the biggest obstacle that we're probably going to see is going to be in the crease with the goaltender Mario Cavalier. Do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree. I think our goalies and their goalies are going to be, neck and neck. It's one of those games where I think it's going to be really who comes to play. I think we kind of
Yeah.
have the right attitude. I think we know. I think we're going to have a long film session tomorrow. I know we are. So
Yeah.
we're going to go over a lot of the things they do that make them successful. And we're also going to revert to look back at ourselves and see the things that have made us successful that have gotten us to this point. So whenever you get two teams that are playing well to play against each other, I think it's one of those things where you're going to just have good hockey.
We have played against some of the top goaltenders in the league already so far and done pretty decently against them. However, with Cavalier, he's only got 2 losses this year, both of them coming in extra time. Leads the league in goals against, save percentage, and shutouts. On the list of the guys that we've played, do you think he kind of tops that list to this point?
We'll see at the end of the year where everyone stands. I think it's still super early. I mean,
Yeah.
they've had a lot of home games. They've had a lot of success at home. It's one of those things where goaltending stats are one of those things where when they're hot, it's great, but it's an encompass of the whole season at the end of the day. So,
Mhm.
so far he's been great. That's good. He hasn't seen us yet though, so we'll see.
Yeah. Last year we grabbed 2 wins from Carolina, both of them when you had started taking over at the helm on home ice. This weekend, what are some things that you are looking forward to from your team to grab a couple big wins, some big points coming out of Carolina?
It's the same things we talk about all the time here. Managing the puck's one of the biggest things where we've been that help us with success. Not a lot of turnovers. Hard work's obviously one of those things where we have to outwork teams. I think one of the big things going into this weekend is just the penalty struggle. I think we've been kind of, like we talked about earlier, we've been kind of getting a little up there in the penalties. One of the things early that we were really good at is we'd only have 2, 3 penalties in a game, and right now we're getting into that 5 to 8 mark, and that's just a little too many. You kill the PK guys' energy too much, and it's one of those things where that is one of those things that takes a ton of energy to kind of kill those off. You get momentum from them, but ultimately your numbers are going to start to dip down. Even the percentage will start to take a hit if you're in the box too much.
When it comes to game planning, obviously we've done well enough. We've made a name enough for ourselves where most of the time you make the other team play to your standards. When you go up against a team like Carolina, is that kind of the same thought process, or is there a little, I guess respect is the wrong word, but is there a little more respect there to be able to kind of give and take a bit?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you have to always give a little respect to the opponent, whoever you're playing. But I think it's one of those things where also, if you do have a good team, you have to kind of have a standard of how you want to play, and that kind of dictates, I think, the outcome of the games. I think that's one of our strong suits is that we do stick to our structure. And at the end of the day, it's really hard for teams to kind of compete with us for 60 minutes. It's one of those things where even if you have a 2-goal lead, we talk about it all the time, it takes 60 to put us away if you're going to do it. So. It's one of those things where I think we're going to have a good test again this weekend here on the road in front of a lot of people in a little bit of a different environment on a long road trip. And I think it's also one of those things that kind of brings teams together. These long road trips are where, the guys get to hang out together a lot. it kind of goes by quick, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah. This past week, we obviously lost one of our better defensemen, one of our most prolific scoring defensemen, and Brody Thornton ended up going up to the SPHL. Congratulations to Brody, very well deserved. You can look at that as a fortunate or an unfortunate thing. But it does sound like we might be getting another addition coming back in Nick Catola sometime soon. Where is he at right now?
We're really happy for Brody. It's one of those things where whenever you can get guys to move up to the next level, it's good. It's one of those things where we want to have guys get that opportunity. So, nothing but congrats to Brody here, and we're hoping that more guys follow in his footsteps. With that said, though, yeah, I think Catola should be back either this weekend or next. We'll see. We're still going to see how he feels. Another practice before we leave. So, you don't want to rush guys back from head injuries, but at the same time, we are excited if he is able to make the trip over. I don't think it's one of those things where we dip away from anything. I think, Cats gets right back in the lineup and we pick right up where we left off. I'm excited for this weekend. Still, we have a good team here, so.
Very good step in the right direction for Catola, that is for sure. I know it's been a small serving size. We've only played 5 games on the road, but we are undefeated at this point. Do you think the guys are starting to kind of get a hang of, life on the road being so home heavy early on this year, especially being a younger team?
We better, because it's one of those things where we're going to get on the road and be on the road for a while. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's just hockey at the end of the day. I think we have one of those groups where everyone gets along. So the road trips are actually probably more fun than anything because, we have one of those groups where, we enjoy making a building silent. That's the most fun ever to us, I think, is when, it's just us cheering. We had to experience that a few times on Saturday night, and it's one of those things we want to keep experiencing more and more.
Yeah. I was actually just going to ask, as a player, is it more fun having those long road trips rather than just the short 2-hour ones back and forth?
Yeah, no, definitely. You get to stay in the hotels. You get to eat some meals together. Some guys that have girlfriends and whatnot get away from everyone. It's just the guys' weekend. So it's a lot of fun.
Good. All right. Well, that just about does it for that bit. We'll wrap things up here in just a little bit. We're going to head to one more commercial break and be back. You're watching the Zydeco Coaches Show live from the Queens Casino.
The 2024-25 Broadway at the River Center Theater season is simply the best, featuring 4 big, bold Broadway hits coming to Baton Rouge. The season opens with Shrek the Musical, the Tina Turner Musical, Chicago the Musical, and Pretty Woman the Musical. Get the 4-show package for as little as $235. That's less than $59 per show. Learn more at RaisingCanesRiverCenter.com/Broadway.
Church Funeral Services will handle it all with care and passion. Church Funeral Services.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktails. Wall-to-wall, state-of-the-art TVs mean you'll see every touchdown, Hail Mary, and big turnover in crystal clear HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino in Baton Rouge, where every moment is a win.
For over 90 years, Don's Seafood has been a Louisiana staple. From the finest Gulf catch to the most authentic Cajun recipes, our commitment to quality and tradition is who we are. Enjoy favorites like our gumbo, jacked up shrimp, seafood salad, steak, and of course, our signature seafood platter. Don's is more than just food. We're a celebration of flavor and family. From our team at Don Seafood, we want to thank you for the last 90 years and cheers to many more together.
Brody Thornton throwing it towards the goal, looking for a redirect, didn't get it. Conway for Haggerty, back door, they score! Elijah Wilson, wide open at the side, a one-time shot. We're tied at 5. All right, welcome back to the Queen's Casino. Looking to wrap things up. Actually, before we do, I do really like this question that just came through the YouTube chat. SP asks, longtime listener, first-time poster, Coach, what is your road trip superstition?
I like peach rings, a little bag of peach rings, a little candy there, before you get on the bus. You never know when it's going to break down, so you want a little sugar sometimes.
Was that something that you always did, or is that something you're doing now?
Oh, still, yeah, no, it's always, I've always liked peach rings. Always have a little bag in the bag. In my little travel bag, there's always one bag in there somewhere.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming out in person to watch the Coaches Show. We've got our group. Thank you to Elijah once again for being on the show. Everybody watching on YouTube, we thank you as well. Albert, Ryan, and Mark, everyone else behind the scenes making it all possible. Folks, this Friday we're at 6:35 Central Time against Carolina. The pregame show is going to start at 6:10 Central. And then on Saturday we're at 5:05 Central Time. Pregame show going to start at 4:40. All of that you could find on YouTube. Next week, we'll be back here next Wednesday for another edition of the Coaches Show. Until then, we'll see you guys on Friday. Andy Poetzinger saying good night.